The power of I am. People that know me know I'm a big Neville Goddard fan, Napoleon Hill, um, and several of the other people. And it all goes to this idea of making these changes. So on the inside, so the things shape on the outside. So today we're going to be discussing how inner dialogue shapes your identity, your personality, and gets you the results that you want, right? And it also can answer why, vision boards, affirmations, even prayers, sometimes they just don't work, right? So here's the core premise, and this is what's important. Your life does not change from effort first. It changes from identity first, backwards out, right? Of course, in the Western world, we've got what they call the hustle culture. And we've equated hard work with success, and it may help, but it doesn't necessarily. I just read a thing, and a guy challenged several of these people, these coaches that are telling you they're going to share their secrets on what made them successful. But you have to always remember, when it comes to this, they probably don't know what made them successful. Sometimes it's luck, right place, right time, but they'll wrap it in mystery and act like this is the secret, right? We see that. Like, get up at 5 a.m. Because all the successful people are, early morning people. And then I go, well, what about Richard Branson or John or Tony Robbins? So, but what's their identity? So your identity is shaped by your inner dialogue. How do you talk to yourself when no one's looking, when no one's around? And again, that's why affirmations, vision boards, even prayers will not work without this. So let's begin to break it down. It's called, and you've probably heard this before, the great I am statements. It's an identity command. That's the driver, right? In fact, in a lot of the religious texts, it talks about the great I am, the Old Testament, the New Testament, when asked for his name, he said, I am. I am who sent me, right? And if you think about it, every statement that begins with I am becomes an instruction, right? And how many times you hear people say, I'm so stupid, I'm so ignorant, I'm so clumsy, whatever. Well, your nervous system organizes around it, especially if you say it repeatedly and you say it enough, you begin to believe it. And then your nervous system makes it real. So that's the interesting part, right? So it's the street smart breakdown, as I call it. It's the hidden chain. Your inner dialogue sets your temperament, which sets your mood, which sets your outlook, which sets your beliefs, and then that creates your personality. And the personality you have will get you the results, right? I taught a couple classes, wrote a book on how to think like the sons of the wealthy and royalty. They think different, right? It has to do with their beliefs and their inner dialogue and all this other stuff, right? So let's start with inner dialogue. It creates your temperament, right? It's your emotional thermostat. Right? You have a physical set point for your thermostat, your internal thermostat, right? They always say 98.6. It might be a little lower, it might be a little higher, but that's when you're healthy and everything's going, that's your thermostat, right? And then and so you're going to stay in this little zone, probably 1 or 2 degrees. You might get a little cooler, you might get hotter, right? But if you get cold, your body starts to shiver to raise your internal thermostat, right? And if it gets hot, you start to sweat, and you'll fan yourself. You'll do that. That's to lower it. But if you think about it, what if this also sets the other parts of your personality? So, this would answer the question, right? Like someone that wins the lotto or you see athletes do it. Talking to someone right before we started, an athlete will sign a huge contract, and then you see them, they play, let's say, 10 years and literally make $100 million. And 5 years later, you're reading about them, they're in bankruptcy, right? Or they win the lotto and suddenly they're from this to that. And you're like, whoa, how did they blow all that money? Well, it didn't fit their thermostat. It didn't fit their set point, right? And so you'll do other things. You'll see actors do that, right? So this is basically your uh, temperament. And we say that someone's temperamental, but what's their temperament? Are they positive or negative? Do they work hard or slough off? But your temperament shapes your mood and outlook, right? Because your mood is your temperament over time. There's always going to be times you might get a little upset. So you'll be temperamental, you'll be upset, you'll be weepy, you'll be on the pity pot, right? But is it constant through time, right? And outlook is what your brain automatically notices. Your mood and temperament are here, and it sets your reticular activating system. So what are you looking for? Positive things or negative things? If you're in a bad temperament, you'll only notice the negative things, right? And of course, it's easy to find that now with social media and the news and everything like that. So this is what is really driving you, right? So that outlook sets your reticular activating system. But then your outlook and your temperament and all this, they form your beliefs. And basically, beliefs are conclusions from repeated perception, right? That's why if you get someone and you get along great with them, right? Because you've had repeated good experiences over time. And if they do a one-off, they do something bad, it's like, well, that's not who they are. You'll say that because you have a belief. Now, a person from the outside say, no, they're just they're a schmuck. Think about sports. I use sports a lot. Is if they've been pretty consistent, if they have an off year, an off game, an off season, they don't get thrown to the wolves as opposed to you see people come in, and get labeled badly, right? And people will form a belief based on the conclusions of what they see, because your personality is your beliefs on autopilot. Again, I'll use a sports analogy. They were talking about a football game that was on, and the one team was behind, and they said, "What was it like being in the huddle?" It was football. What was it like being in the huddle? With everything on the line, going to the playoffs, all this other stuff, and a couple of guys said, well, did he yell at it? Did the quarterback yell at everybody? Did the whatever? He goes, no. He told like a couple of jokes before they got started, right? And he goes, loosen up. It's a game. Let's have some fun, right? But that's his personality, and he's a winner. And then they looked at him. He goes, I looked at him. Here's a guy that's been consistently one of the best three at his position ever to play. They have a belief, and that belief will trip outward, if you will. So the leverage point is you don't fight emotions and you don't force belief. You change how you speak to yourself, right? What's your internal dialogue? What do you say when you say I am, right? And I'll give a secret at the end if you stick around, right? So, 30-second reset, and you should do this several times a day, is I am, state what you want. I am healthy and in shape. I am a successful working therapist. I am, but the trick, as Neville Goddard and Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale said, it's got to be as if it's happening now. Because, and we know this as hypnotists, NLPers, and coaches, subconscious really doesn't understand the future, right? Even though there is some thought now, it can set time markers, but it's like, what are you right now, right? So you have to let your nervous system adjust. So this may take time. You don't join a gym on Monday and then quit on Friday because you don't look like a fitness model or a bodybuilder or whatever it happens to be. But that's what people do, especially in our age of current instantaneous, results, if you will, right? So you got to do this consistently, right? And Neville Goddard has a couple of talks out on how to speak to yourself for 3 days to change your life. It's a good one, right? It's very short. It's kind of like what we're doing here, but it's kind of repeated and they added other stuff. But you have to do this consistently for 3 days, right? And again, it'd be like this is going into the week where the health clubs are starting to get crowded. People are going to the health food store and buying healthy food and all this, right? And I know from the gym thing, only 10% of the people that join the gym that start working, they'll jump in, they'll work out, 3 or 4 times this week, and then 3 or 4 times the next week, and then maybe once, and then, by February they're gone, right? So it's one of those, it's easier to say than it is to do. Right? But so you have to do, and like comes from the recovery world, which is if you slip, reset and keep going. Don't beat yourself up for doing it. Don't, whatever, keep towards your goal. If you run a race and you stumble and fall, don't just keep looking at the spot you fell and curse yourself for falling. Dust yourself off, look at the goal, and continue into the race, right? And the reason I think Neville picked 3 days, it's magical, right? If you can do it pretty consistently for 3 days, magic happens. In the scriptures, it has Jonah and the whale. How long was he in the whale? 3 days. When he came out, he was different, right? So it doesn't take long. It takes consistently. When he was in, and this is important, when he was in the whale, there was no outside, there was no news, no social media, so he was, focusing on that. And of course, the resurrection it happened over 3 days, right? He was crucified, went in the tomb, and arisen. He was different when he came out, right? So, excuse me. What the heck was that? Something just, okay. So anyway, so 3 days, if you could do it pretty consistently for 3 days, especially when you first wake up, when you're going to sleep, a couple of times a day, you have to state the statements that you want as if it's happening now consistently. When you eat, you say that you eat with the attitude and the belief that this is happening now. It's already happened. Not, I will become, I am healthy and in shape. And again, this is what's magical. You do it for 3 days, right? It's kind of like one of my other favorite little stories from the Bible is Daniel in the lion's den. He's thrown, whatever happened, but he was thrown into the lion's den, hungry lions. So the lions could eat him for whatever heresy he committed. So he jumped, they're thrown in there, and the king or whoever it was told him, we'll see how your God can protect you now. And so there's these hungry lions. And so what he did when they dropped him in, right? If you look at the lions, they're going to seem huge. They're going to be scary. And he turned his back on the lions and looked to the light, looked to his savior, right? And as Neville Goddard would say, if you're hungry, if you only think about being hungry, that's all you see. If you're broke, you look at the negatives in your bank account and it keeps growing, right? But if you could turn your back on it and look at the salvation, right? If you're hungry, it's food. If you're broke, it's money. If you're ill, it's health, right? Focus on the goal to make it your I am, right? Then it becomes like magic. So yeah, I started this January 1st, and I'm starting a second one starting soon because I get pretty consistent, and then things happen. But the biggest thing is, just like I would say in my addiction recovery world, again, you ran a race, you stumbled and fell. Dust yourself off, keep focused on the goal, and keep going forward. And just keep practicing. And if you ever get to 3 days, it will be different, right? And so the closing thought basically is very simple. If you change the instructions, it'll begin to change your identity, your personality, and that will change the results, right? And one of the things you could do in the great I am is how other people see you. I am the type of person that people think of being super successful. I am the kind of person that is a great actor, a great writer, a great therapist, whatever it is, right? And you project that out because now we know, energy is contagious and things go out there. And that'll begin to change the results because they see you different, And I promised a little inside secret, which is the magic of future gratitude, right? Here it is you think about something you're really grateful for. And step into that feeling of gratitude. Right. I'm grateful to be sober. I'm grateful to be healthy, right? And you step into it, right? Then you take that feeling of gratitude and you make the statement, I am grateful for whatever it is that you want. So you're creating future gratitude, right? Not just because gratitude is usually for things that happened in the past. You're creating gratitude for what's going to happen in the future, right? And it can set a cybernetic loop into your brain. So that's, the great I am. That's changing your inner dialogue, which will change everything. So if you like this, just reach out, let me know. Once or twice a week, I'm going to do these shorter little videos. And of course, if you follow me on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, I do post a lot of the shorts, but I'm going to start doing a little bit more, but not so much it's overwhelming. So if you have any questions, just reach out and I shall talk to you soon.